Let's talk about Antarctica, but forget the version you see in documentaries, because beneath all that ice, there's power. And what you probably don't know is that right now, a quiet race to control it is already happening, all because the rules that have kept this continent safe for decades are about to change. You see, we tend to think of Antarctica as this pure, untouchable scientific reserve. And for now, it is. But there's a deadline on the calendar. In 2048, the international treaty that bans all mining and all military activity, well, it comes up for review. And that one date could change absolutely everything, setting the stage for a massive conflict over resources and influence.
So to really get what's at stake here, you have to understand what's actually under all that ice. From a satellite, sure, it just looks empty, frozen, static. But that's just the surface. Underneath all that quiet is a hidden, dynamic world. And the scale of it is just, it's hard to wrap your head around. In some spots, the ice sheet is nearly 5 kilometers thick. That's about 3 miles of solid ice pressing down with an unimaginable weight. It's a barrier that seems completely impenetrable. But here's the thing, it's not a solid block. Beneath all that ice, there's a whole functioning system. We're talking about massive rivers that, because of the insane pressure, actually flow uphill. There are lakes down there, bigger than many cities, buried volcanoes that are still active, and craziest of all, pockets of air trapped from a time before humans even walked the Earth. Now, you'd think a world sealed under miles of ice would stay hidden forever, right? Well, not exactly. Every now and then, we get a glimpse, a little clue that this sealed-off system is very much alive. And sometimes, it leaks.
And this is maybe the most dramatic example. It's called blood falls. It looks like the glacier is bleeding, but what you're seeing is ancient salt water that's been trapped for millions of years. It's so full of iron that the second it hits the air, it literally rusts, standing the ice this deep, shocking red. It's a startling piece of evidence that a living, breathing chemical world is churning away down below.
So, with all this incredible stuff going on, how much have we actually seen for ourselves? Physically explored? Well, it adds up to an area about the size of a basketball court. Seriously, the entire subglacial continent, and we've drilled down to see a basketball court's worth. It's kind of wild, right? We literally know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the ground beneath our feet in Antarctica.
Okay, so we've got this incredible hidden geology, but that's not even the half of it. The ice itself is maybe even more important. It's a perfect frozen record of our planet's entire climate history.
I love this quote because it's just so perfect. Think about it like this. Every single year, new snow falls, and it buries the old snow. Over thousands and thousands of years, the weight of all that new snow crushes the old layers down into solid ice, creating this perfectly preserved archive that goes back deep into the planet's past. And the way it works is just so brilliantly simple. As that snow gets squeezed into ice, it traps tiny little bubbles of air. And those bubbles aren't just empty space. They're perfect, tiny little samples of Earth's atmosphere from the exact moment that snow fell. They're the jackpot. And just how far back does this record go? Well, scientists have drilled ice cores that give us a continuous story of our atmosphere going back over 1 million years. I mean, just let that sink in. That's air from a world that existed long, long before our species ever built a single city. So by analyzing these tiny bubbles, scientists can literally read the planet's story. They can see exactly what CO2 and methane levels were like. They can pinpoint giant volcanic eruptions from thin layers of ash. They can even figure out what the temperature was. The ice, it remembers everything. Okay, so we've got this priceless scientific treasure, this hidden geological world, this frozen memory of our planet. And that brings us to the urgent geopolitical reality, the deadline that puts every single bit of this at risk. Back in 1959, right in the middle of the Cold War, a bunch of countries did something pretty amazing. They signed the Antarctic Treaty, which basically set the entire continent aside for peace and science. No military bases, no mining. But there was a catch, a kind of ticking clock built into the agreement that said in 2048, the whole thing could be reviewed and maybe changed. And this is where it gets really strategic. You see, those research stations that countries are building and expanding today, they're not just for science. There's a simple rule in international relations. When a big agreement is about to be renegotiated, the people who have the biggest footprint on the ground, the most buildings, the best runways, the most people, they have the most leverage. Presence becomes power. And make no mistake, this isn't some far-off problem we can worry about later. The positioning, the maneuvering, it's happening right now, mostly hidden under the convenient cover of scientific exploration. So let's take a look at who the key players are. You can already see the clear strategic moves being made. For example, China is aggressively expanding its network of year-round stations, even building new airfields to create this powerful logistics chain. At the same time, Russia is busy conducting these massive seismic surveys. And while that technology is great for geology, it's also, really good at mapping potential oil and gas deposits. These are all chess moves for a post-2048 world. So you have to ask why. Why spend billions of dollars to build things in the coldest, harshest place on Earth? The answer's pretty simple, really. The science is a real part of it, for sure. But it's also the perfect cover for staking a claim to what could be an immense amount of wealth. You see, Antarctica used to be part of that supercontinent, Gondwana. It was connected to places like South America and Africa, places we know are loaded with resources. So, geological models suggest that under all that ice, you're going to find huge deposits of coal and oil, precious metals, and of course, the big one for our modern world, rare earth elements. We're talking about a potential value in the trillions. But here's the critical thing to remember. Antarctica isn't just a big freezer full of valuable stuff. It's a deeply interconnected system. The ice shapes the rock influences the water underneath, and that water eventually flows out and feeds the entire Southern Ocean. If you start disrupting one piece of that, say with industrial-scale mining, it could trigger a cascade of effects that we can't even begin to predict. Which leaves us with this huge central question. For more than 60 years, we've had this amazing agreement that's kept an entire continent reserved for peace and science. But the pressures are building. That quiet race is already well underway. So should this incredible, unique place on Earth stay protected as a sanctuary forever? Or, in our resource-hungry world, is digging it all up just inevitable?